And I'm really excited for the guests we have tonight on our Conscious Parenting Convo series. I am Conscious Togo, and as always, I'm happy to be your host. And being your host, directing the conversation around the importance of parental involvement in children's education and overall development has been a joy. And most of these conversations will actually filter into November. But now we are actually recording our last conversation, and our guest is a special treat. I don't want to exclude anybody. Most of our guests that we've spoken to are parents. But when I approached our guest today, she was like, "But why are you approaching me? I'm not even a parent." I was like, you know what? On this platform, we don't exclude people, and we love different perspectives. And so because she's a life coach, that made it extra special. So I welcome you. I want you to be the one to introduce yourself on our Conscious Parenting platform. For myself, it's just to say a warm welcome to you. And this is a safe space for us to learn and rethink. And I hope that you'll have a good time with us and not feel like we shouldn't have a perspective just because we're not a parent.
Oh, thank you. It's so funny because when you said this, and I was like, you know what, I've been a child. So I think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
So hello, everybody. My name is Kanyisa. I'm from a small town called Dala in the Eastern Cape, but I live in Austin, Texas now in the United States. I'm a life coach, so I focus more on personal development, things like being authentic, mindset, transformation. How do we unlearn what society has taught us? And I think this is a good time to kind of have those conversations, because I think with conscious parenting, which is so new, actually, you introduced me to Togo, like following your platform and then digging through other people on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm just like, I'm kind of envious of your kids. I wish I was raised like that. But I think it's a good space to be in. And I'm excited to, I don't know, just talk to you guys and see what's going on.
Yeah, no, we love people who are life coaches. I mean, as a life coach, you help people find direction, you help people find themselves, and you help people navigate around life and the challenges. So as a parent myself, I can most definitely tell you that being in conversation with you now will not only serve me as a host, but it will also serve me as a parent, because the challenges that come with parenting are ones that I can come put on your table, and to your ear, and then you will have a way for me to go around it and navigate. So I think maybe the first question that I have for you is, when people such as myself or parents, or when you have conversations with parents, what do you find, or what do they say is missing in terms of the relationship they have with their kids?
I'm going to approach that question in a more self-aware space.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that a lot of the times my focus is working with women. And when I talk to moms, whether they be clients or friends or family members, there's this sense of not knowing who you are anymore outside of being a parent. And that guilt that comes with self-exploration, now that you have other human beings to be responsible for, there's almost this sense of, when you become a mom, you are no longer your own person. And the work that I have to do with them is be like, but you're a person, you're your own person, and you get to be, right? And so it's just, and a society has put so much pressure on the word motherhood. And a lot of the times it feels like, should you pursue something outside of motherhood, you're doing something intrinsically wrong. And all you can be when you're a mom is be a mom. You shut every door on growth, on learning, on focusing on yourself, on doing self-care practices, on self-love. There's this almost distaste for that. It's almost like but you have kids now, you're being selfish. And so the big conversation for me with that is, how do we parent human beings while still aware that we're also human beings who need to grow and learn and develop and have dreams and pursue those dreams outside of this child or parent?
Ooh, that's a deep one. That's a deep one. And I can most certainly resonate with that. Do you find that it happens? So the interesting thing about that is that what I do is I help parents parent from a place of awareness to better understand and support their children in their different stages of development. So even though the focus is the focus is obviously on the parents, for them to be self-aware in terms of themselves and how it is that they relate to their kids. But then there's also the element of your child is in your life for as long as they will be in your life. And therefore, because growth happens in different stages, you will need to be a different person at every stage. So each stage is going to require a different you. So do you find that what you just said, what you just shared with us, do you find that it stays forever with them, or it just comes in different phases? Maybe for the first 3 years of the child's life, parents feel like that, and then maybe as the children get older, they ease now into finding themselves again? Or is this like, okay, from the minute that the child is born till the minute that, till the forever?
I think if I'm understanding that question, you're asking if that sense of self-awareness and self-development stops at a certain age when your child, so now you're like, oh, he's 10, I can get back to my life type of thing.
Yes.
And here's the trick, it doesn't, because you've convinced yourself that it's not okay to be yourself. You've taken this time and said, all I can be is a mom. And it's not an on and off switch. It takes intentional work. I'm somebody that loves living with intention. And it's something that we have to make ourselves learn. It's something where we have to sit with ourselves and investigate ourselves. I know parents who are still struggling with that. Parents who have 20-year-olds and 11-year-olds, kids are in school, but now it's like, okay, they're not a baby anymore. What do I do with all this time? I don't know who I am. I don't know what I desire anymore. I don't have that connection with myself. And I think when you talk about being in this self-aware parenting style, is start when they are young and be like, what can I do in the meantime? I'm not saying go to fucking school when you have a baby, but staying grounded in your sense of self, right? Like, this is who I am still, outside of being this child's parent. I don't think there's a cutoff age. I do think there's an age where it feels like, oh, they don't need me anymore, so I can do other things. But now what you are left with is, what are my passions? What are my desires? What moves me? What drives me? What am I outside of being this? Because you've been this for so long, and now you're having to redevelop yourself and to recreate yourself outside of being super mom, which is, so I even hate that title. But it's like staying grounded in who you are in terms of, yes, I'm a mom, yes, I'm a parent, or I'm a dad, or I'm a guardian, whatever you are to this human, but I still get to plan my life outside of them.
Do you find that most parents, so the one other challenge, whilst we're still on the topic, one other challenge that most parents have is being able to build a solid and strong bond with their kids? Do you think that has to do with the fact that they've told themselves that this is all I am, this is all I'll amount to, and therefore that might bring about resentment? Because then the challenge then becomes formulating a natural, strong bond with the child. Do you find that most parents are resentful in their journey of parenting, or is it just simply, okay, the relationship is what it is, and then we'll see how it turns out?
I mean, I don't know if the word I would use is resentment. It's so funny. I was talking to a close family member of my partner, and she said, I parent from guilt because there's so much I wish I had done for them. And now that they're grown, I don't know what to do with myself. And so the younger sibling is parented through the vintage point of, oh, this is what I should have done, right? I don't know if it's resentment more than it is. I mean, think of parents who make their kids become whatever. You're going to be a doctor because I said so. You're going to be an engineer because I said so. You're going to marry a man at this age because I said so, right?
Mm.
What about developing that child's life versus in terms of who they are versus on what you didn't get to do? I didn't get to be a doctor, so you will be. I didn't get to live this type of lifestyle, so you will, because I've sacrificed for you. I hate that word. I've sacrificed so much for you. It sounds resentful if you think about it. I gave up this and that for you. You are a parent, right? So, oops, I kicked my tripod. But I think it's a whole lot of things. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's like I forgot what the term is now. I'm blanking, but that like vicariously living through somebody, which is so unfair on the child, because it's like, dude, I just want to draw. I want to be an artist, but you're making me be something that you didn't get to be. And you didn't get to be that because you sacrificed for me and my well-being.
Yeah. I think I love what you are doing with the conversation, and that is having us think about how we frame our conversations and the language that we use, because it's very important. The biggest thing with conscious parenting, you will find one of the biggest things is that it focuses a lot on the language use. And so because the language that you use with your children will either be respectful, and from that you will gain respect from your children. And if you do the opposite, then you will get that exact same result, which would be disrespect. So when you say that most parents, it's rather maybe from guilt and not resentment, there would be certain things that would make them resentful, but for the most part, it's parenting from guilt. And it's the comparison again, like you mentioned, it's the comparison between the society standards and where you are and now where this child is, and you still trying to figure out where you fit in, even in the whole big equation.
Yeah. And I mean, the reality is most people have not gone to therapy. Most parents have not gone to. I'm somebody who's like, I wish my parents went to therapy before they had me, because a lot of the times, you know, people speak about love languages. Now, in my home, we talk about trauma a lot. We have books, we read them. And one of the things that we're talking about the other day is our love languages influenced by our trauma. And the truth is yes. If you think about how trauma literally changes our brains, right? And so to tie it into parenting, it's like, is the way I parent informed by my trauma? And you can only do that when you are somebody that's okay with putting yourself under a microscope.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like looking at themselves in those terms. Because it's fucking scary. It's scary to go, how is, I grew up in a household that would do silent treatment. So if I'm mad in my relationships now, I give the silent treatment. It takes a lot out of me to say, babe, I don't like A, B, C, and D. I will shut up and quietly do the dishes. Because I learned that behavior from the people that were raising me. And now that I'm older, and now that I'm aware, and now that I've taken myself and put myself under a microscope and go, Kanyesa, why the fuck do you do that? And it's because that is how violence was shown to me. I'm not going to hit you physically, but I will punish you emotionally by withdrawing love and communication, which is really, really hurtful. And so a lot of people like, that's how my mother did it. That's how I'm going to do it. And then we are just perpetuating this generational trauma from one child to the next because we have not looked at ourselves. And look at ourselves and go, I have to change this. If I am going to raise whole healed human beings, I have to change this about myself.
Yeah. So the challenge, especially with parents and what I do and what I see, is that we still live in a society for the most part that does believe that parenting comes naturally, of which is not true, because there's a lot of things that you need to learn along the journey of parenting. So you can't just solely rely on the instinct or, just thinking that it just happens on its own. And there is a belief that you don't need to be taught how to parent because you intrinsically know how it is you're going to parent.
Especially for moms.
Yes.
Yes. The instinct, right?
Yes.
And nurturing instinct.
Yes. And it's so dangerous because you think about it, soon as you have the newborn baby with you, you are tired. Your body has gone through trauma on its own. So you still need to recover on so many aspects, but also need to learn on so many aspects that you can't just rely on the fact that you're just going to know how to do it, because you yourself may not recognize the full you because you've changed so much. And so needing to learn and needing to get to a point where you get to understand yourself again, or how can we get people to come to therapy? There's a conversation I was listening to. I think it was Bumile Dwaba, and she was having a conversation with a psychologist, and she spoke about whether it's important for every parent, once they have a newborn, whether it's important for them to seek help, or even if they don't feel like they need help, is it important for them to seek help? And she was like, yes, absolutely. So take me through maybe somebody who might think about therapy, but then they're not at that stage where they're willing to take action. What's your conversation with a person who knows there is such a thing called therapy, but then is not necessarily at a point where they're willing to take action, or they're looking to be convinced? Maybe let me ask you this way. Do you feel like you need to convince people to come to therapy? And how do you feel about that?
There's two parts to it, right? Mm-hmm. We have to think about the economy side of it. Therapy is expensive.
Okay.
So a lot of the times people want to go to therapy, but they cannot have access because it's really expensive. Coaching, I'm expensive, right? Coaching is expensive.
I know.
Yeah. And so
which is why we're so happy to have you here, by the way.
I love being here. I love doing this. But the real question is, does this person not want to go to therapy, or can they not afford therapy? Secondly, we live in a society that demonizes asking for help. Let me say. Especially, like you said, especially when it comes to parenting. We live in a society, especially the Black community. We have stigmatized therapy, and we have made it the fuck all of help. It's like, if you need therapy, then something is wrong with you. And we raise Black women to be strong and to not be able to say, I need help. I've had Black women who are clients who are like, I feel weak being here because we've equated vulnerability and asking for help as something that is wrong to do, as a signifier of weakness, right? And so, and then there's that second part of it. And then there's also like, do you not want to go to therapy because you are genuinely scared about the stuff that you have to deal with? because there's an inner child in all of us that is so broken in some people.
Yeah.
And when you go to therapy and you start doing that inner child work, it is hard. It is difficult work that you have to be mentally and emotionally prepared to do. And so I don't believe that, especially in these instances, I don't think that people need to be convinced to go to therapy. I think even if you don't think something is wrong, if you can afford to go to therapy, especially before becoming a parent, you should go. You should go just so in case shit happens. Treat it like insurance. In case shit happens, I'm going to be prepared. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I totally get that. Do you think what part does the safe space, the safe space concept play in that? Do you think people factor that in, or it still goes back to people feel judged for wanting to go to therapy to begin with?
I mean, I think they feel judged because therapists are legally bound to create a safe space for you. Like when I have a client coming in, I sign a confidentiality form. No one knows anything that happens in my sessions. And with more talk about mental health now, people know that it is a safe. There's no safer space than a therapist's office. The only time they can report you for anything is if you're trying to off yourself or off other people. That's it. Like when there's like danger of physical harm, right? And so I honestly think it is the embarrassment, you know, it is feeling less than, it's feeling like my grandmother used to say, that means whatever load I'm carrying, it's from God and I need to carry it by myself, which is not true. Sometimes indlovu iyadinwa and it sits and it rests and it lays there and other elephants come and fucking play with it, whatever, however they deal with each other.
And
but Tina,
sorry
go ahead.
to cut you off. And that on its own can put you in a place where you silence your voice and you silence yourself, and you actually put yourself in a position where you are vulnerable to depression, anxiety, and the likes because of such statements. Again, the importance of just how we frame and have the language.
And it's really bad because a lot of the times with parenting and being women and being Black, to be honest, like I think race is like, I look at life in terms of intersectionality, right? Like how do we become who we become? What are the factors? Why do we think the way that we think? And I think, Tina, as Black women, we've done ourselves such a great service when we want to appear, and we live in this world that has pushed us to be 10 times better. You know, at work, I want to be the best because I am a Black queer woman. So I have to show up and be the best. I have to do 10 times better than everybody else. And it is exhausting. It is exhausting. And we treat rest as a luxury, but it is a necessity. Rest is not a luxury. Rest is a necessity. We need it.
Yeah, I think what I'm loving about this conversation is just taking back to, you know, the self-aware space. I mean, how else, for instance, the conversation around, you know, I don't think we are having enough conversations around just how different you become, how different of a person you become once you have a baby. And how you will obviously need to find yourself again, regain that strength. And, you know,
and that confidence. With women, your body changes. Your body changes. No one wants to talk about that. Everyone's like, oh, you're fine. You've just done this beautiful thing. You've brought life into the world. And then when you're not feeling that you've done this beautiful thing, you start to feel guilty and shameful for feeling how you feel. Because you think it's wrong to feel like, you know what, this baby tore my vagina up. Now I can't hold my fucking pee. It hurts to pee. Do you know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
know. Because you know what, I think you know, that's what I'm saying. I love having you because it's a different perspective. In a lot of ways, we may not want outside opinion, but outside opinion says the things that we are not willing to say, like what you just said now. For the most part, even though we talk a lot about support and the importance of a village around you, is that sometimes they shut you down in like, you know, you will. But are some of these things new to everyone? Like, you would find that you will be having that problem, but it's not a problem for everyone. Other people will just tell you to ignore it and move on with your life. But other people will have the information and will tell you what's going on. So is it within us in the Black communities where we are lacking? And which would be so odd to say we lack in terms of information, because we've got this tradition of saying once you've got a kid, you go back home. If you're fortunate enough to have that support structure, you go back home for about 3 months and you'll have your parents take care of you. But in that taking care of you process, what exactly is happening that's encouraging you to find yourself again? Or that, like, what is happening exactly in those conversations? I'm asking you also, just maybe as somebody who we consider as the village, how do you best support me without me thinking that your opinion is not good enough?
You see, that's the question I have for you. Do you talk to your friends who don't have kids about this journey? Like, my best friend, she lives in Boston. She had a baby 3 years ago. And she would send me texts that sound like, I love my kid, but I am so mad at what I just went through. Or this is so hard. And no one tells you how hard this is. And being able to have somebody where you can have that space of truth telling. And you mentioned that, you know, when people have kids, their family comes, it's like the conversations are not about your mental health. It's about, Mnyaka, let me go help you clean up their butt. It's not about creating a space. And then there's this term, I hate it so much, nyamezela persevere. This is your life now. Don't complain about it. It's like, no, I'm not complaining. I'm telling you what I'm going through. I'm telling you what my body's going through. I'm telling you what my mental space is going through. I had an old friend of mine reach out to me. She was like, I just had a baby and I feel terrible. And I was like, it is okay for you to feel terrible. It is okay for you to love the fuck out of this child and be mad and be confused and be worried and wonder if you're doing a good job. It is okay for you to not know what the fuck a good job is. There's no manual. No one wrote a book. No one is like, oh, this is how you raise a child. And when they do, we live in a world that writes books within the Eurocentric vintage point. That's not your life. That's not your story. How they raise children in Europe is not how you're going to raise your kids in South Africa. The fears that they have are not your fears, right? And so it is creating a story that is centered in your truth, in your environment.
I think what you're saying right there is drives the point. I think the fear element of it, what I get a lot is that people will say that they didn't want to share, or they don't want to share about their parenting journey because they don't want to scare the next generation, right? So that's what you get. Which, you know, as
scare them.
Yes, we don't want to scare.
They should scare them.
If we if Sanjela ngale jeni vele nizokusaba, and then angeke ngifune ukuba nabantwana, which is going to be a problem. So now it's a thing of they hide some of the information, they keep it to themselves, and then only later on will they want to tell you. And so for me, the conversation I'm having with people who are not parents themselves are these conversations, right? This is the platform so that they can better inform themselves, so that they know what it takes to be the type of parent you would need to be in order for you to thrive in your relationship with your child, but also build strong bonds. But it's also a thing of talking to people who are willing to listen. So there would also need to be, like you said, go to therapy before you have the kid. So start asking the questions before you have the kid. It makes it much better for me to know how to serve you. But otherwise, we're just gonna narrate the conversations around my own experience. And that is fine, it's good and well. It can serve to a certain degree, but then to a large degree, it might miss certain people because I'm not answering the direct questions that they might have.
Yeah. And I'm thinking now, when you were talking, like, they did research and they found that kids who are raised in same-sex parents' homes are more stable, are more grounded. They do really well in school. And here's why. Queer people can't just make a child. Queer people have to genuinely want to have one. And so they are prepared for the child. They know how to change their lives. They go to therapy. They talk to people. It is also expensive. And so when queer people have kids, they've done the work. Is like, they've done the work because they know that they can't just make one, oopsie, bye. Even when they adopt kids, queer couples are not just going to go and adopt a child. They will buy a new house. They will, get new furniture, the house-proof, because they made enough money. They've invested in their own development so that they know how to raise this child. Ooh. And this is the disservice for heterosexuals, right? Where you guys can just, oops, popped one out.
Yes.
Now it's here. And then you go to hospital, they just give you a baby and they're like, bye. It'll be great. Oof. I think there needs to be more education. I think there needs to be more, within parents, maybe I can live with this. I think you guys need to tell the truth about parenting. I think women need to tell the truth about what it feels to be pregnant. Like, the way that movies over romanticize that process is insane. No one talks about the swelling of the legs and the swelling of the feet and the back pain and your boobs changing. No one talks about how traumatic it is to give birth, to have your body ripped apart, to have an emergency C-section. Everybody romanticizes the process of life-giving. And I think when we can tell the truth in terms of not being like, oh, people are going to be scared to have kids, because people will have kids. Someone is having a child right now. But what we can create is self-aware parents who seek help before shit breaks.
I love that. And I think maybe this is where we will end it off. I'm inspired by this conversation for the second series. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm going to invite you back once again on this conversation. I think for now, you can just leave us with what we can expect from you and where can we find you should people want to reach out and get your services.
Amazing. Okay, what you can expect from me is authenticity and truth and honesty, because I always remind people in all my videos, not all of them, most of them, to be radical in self-love. And I think it is so powerful for parents, because when your kids see you radically love yourself, it teaches them to radically love themselves. when they see you say no, when they see you set boundaries, when they see you choose yourself, they're like, oh, that gives me permission to set my own boundaries. That gives me permission to not be a people pleaser, because kids don't have language